Hey, this is Sean with the Go Tennis Podcast, powered by Signature Tennis. Check out our calendar of Metro Atlanta tennis events at letsgotennis.com. And if you're a fan of Bull Shark Sports, you can go to shop.letsgotennis.com and get yourself a hoodie or a hat. Today, this is Youth Sports Talk with Coach Ben Hestley. Today, Coach Ben wants to talk about habits of looking ahead. Ben, you ready to talk youth sports?
Yeah, let's look ahead no further. Let's dive in.
All right. Today, Coach Ben has some thoughts about creating habits of considering the future during your current development. So, Ben, where do you want to start?
Let's start with that word, development. So I, scrolling Facebook like most of us do, came across this image. It said something to the effect of no scout ever asks you how many games you won as a kid. Focus on development. That was the last piece of the image, the last sentence. And I'm like, okay. And we throw that word around a lot, development. We're developing the kids. Our program's all about development. Any program you go search on, whether it's for entry level players or it's for the elite competitors, it's going to use that term. We development. We're focused on development. Well, so my question today is, what does that even mean, and what does that even look like?
Okay. Do I have to, am I answering that or are you
Yeah, go
answering that?
for it. Yeah, go. Yeah.
What does
What do you think it
development
is?
look
I
like?
mean, I have my mind of what I think it is.
Quick, can I look it up?
You can look.
Uh,
Yeah. No, I don't want your AI, Chat GPT definition of development.
Come
Like,
on,
what in
Grok.
your own
Grok, help me
terms, your
out.
own experience, what does that mean to you?
Development to me points out to improvement. It is about developing skills, so it's going to be one skill added. It's going to be new abilities. So, am I better today than I was yesterday at whatever? Whether it's a skill in a sport, whether it's being more mature, whether it's appreciating my coaches, whether it's being a better kid in front of my parents, behavior, any of those things. Am I better today than I was yesterday?
All right.
That's my thought.
Yeah. And is that improvement going to help you down the road? I think that's our talk today is because for me, development is whatever I'm improving on, how is that going to help me tomorrow and the next day and the next day and in a sports case at the next level of play.
Right. So when you asked me the other day, do I have a push-up contest coming up? And the answer is no. It's the skill itself might not be relevant to for the skill's sake, but is this going to make me better as a ex player, as an athlete for tomorrow's event or the event maybe in a year, maybe in 5 years? Is there a plan, and we go back to periodization, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to be something written down. Not everybody has a 5 year plan written down, but you can have a goal. You can have an idea of what's in the future.
Yeah. And while we talk about we want to get better just for the sake of getting better, and the reward of improvement is the improvement itself, right? That's the real carrot that we should be chasing is getting better at the sport or the sport we want to play or the lifestyle we want to live. Getting better at that is the true reward.
Can I interrupt with a
Yeah.
philosophical question there? Why is getting better a reasonable goal? Because if I'm going to say, oh, I just want to get better at tennis, is it not a legitimate question to ask? Well, why? Or I'm not just getting better to get better.
Yeah, you could ask why. I mean, do you want to just stay the same? You can just maintain.
Well, sure, but getting better is usually for a purpose. I get better at reading so I can comprehend more, so I can learn faster. So my question is, what most people would say is, I want to get better at this thing so I can win. And winning is more fun than losing.
True.
And so in that case, I can track past winning and go to fun and say, being better at a thing is more fun than not being good at a thing. I'm just curious because a lot of people aren't going to buy the whole you should just do it for the enjoyment of getting better.
Yeah, I think if you're in your mindset of always having to get something, whatever that thing might be, an extrinsic thing like
Hmm.
winning or a trophy or making a team, that's not those choices. And so we kind of get into like we always tell the kids about control the controllables. You can't control that. You honestly can compete as well as you can. You can, if it's tennis, you can put as many balls in play that you are physically capable of putting in play, but you can't say, I'm going to win this match. You have no choice over that. There's somebody on the other side that's trying to do the same thing. So you want to create, and I don't want to get into a goals discussion, but you want to create some, when you do have goals, make them really objective and make them really achievable that they're about you, right? Like if I want to run faster, I want to improve my time. I want to improve my 60-yard dash time. Well, that's an achievable goal, right? I can measure that, and there's nobody that has sake over that improvement or sorry over that goal than me, right? But saying
But
I'm gonna go,
why 60 yards?
I don't
Shouldn't
know,
it be the
40.
40-yard
Yeah,
because I'm going to go to
pick your
the
yardage,
upcoming
man. You can do
combine for the NFL?
yeah, you can do 10. Well, baseball uses 60 a lot.
Okay, so there you go. So yours is a baseball goal. It's going to make me a better base runner,
Yeah.
right? And therefore I'm more likely to win, and therefore I'm more likely to have fun. Is that not in? Is having fun not intrinsic then?
Oh, having fun should be. Yeah, having fun
But
is definitely intrinsic.
winning as an extrinsic goal,
We want people to have fun. We want people to have fun learning and have fun improving.
we
But the
want
point of
that.
today, yeah, the point, bring it back to today's discussion. We can get
Yep,
deep in the
that's
weeds
true.
on
The
this,
philosophy of winning.
but right, we just well, let's just, for argument's sake, let's just agree that everybody wants, the people we're talking about want to get better. We want to help them get better, and hopefully they'll continue to play. As you continue to play as a youth athlete, certain demands are going to be applied to you and for you that you have to meet as you play these older ages and these higher levels. So something that Driveline Baseball does really well and why I follow Driveline and use a lot of their stuff and done a lot of coaching with coaching education with Driveline is their skills at scale philosophy, right? The skills at scale. What skills am I learning now? They're going to scale and help me in whatever else it is that I'm doing next. Like name your thing, right?
I love that
Um,
phrase.
yeah, I mean it's basically like spend the majority of your time getting better at things that are going to help you be able to play and be able to compete when you are at an older age or a higher level.
So in that case, is it's more important to learn the skill? Let's say I'm playing in 10 and under basketball. It's more important for me to practice the skill that's going to help me win in the 12 and under next year than it is to practice the skill that's going to help me win this year.
Well, if that's it, yes. And we get back to talking
Yes.
about,
Okay.
well, and I say that because a lot of coaches can, and this is kind of our job as coaches and trainers and even parents to make sure that, well, what are the fundamentals? What are the skills of the sport that we're going to need later on? Okay. And I don't want to get an argument about, well, in tennis they put on a full size court at the pro level, so let's just put everybody on a full size court and go from there. Like we're kind of past that nonsense, right? But a good example, and since you brought up basketball, I remember reading an article years ago about how this girl was when she was 10, and she, common for girls, she hit puberty super early. So she's 10 years old and she's like 5'6". Okay. So the coach of her basketball team puts her at forward and just puts her under the goal, basically. Just toss Judy the ball and she'll just lay it up right there and shoot in, right? Well, she never learned any skill. She never learned how to dribble. She never really learned how to pass because all she would do is go stand there. No one could guard her because she's super tall. Well, guess what? That's when she was 10. All right. She was 5'6" at 10 years old. Guess how tall she was at 15 years old?
5'6".
5'6". So she never,
My
so
wife was the tallest one in her middle
so
school, and she's 5'1". Yeah.
yeah, so now she moves to now all the other girls that are, this is you get to high school basketball. Now the girls that are really good at basketball are 5'8", 5'9", some pushing 6 feet. She's 5'6". She's gonna have to move to like more of a guard position. She don't have any guard skills. She can't guard anybody in space. She can't dribble. She can't really pass the ball. So her basketball career was really tapped out because her youth coach leveraged winning at 10 and under.
Mm.
And I've got this girl I can use to win ball games, right? We've talked about coaches using kids as pawns. I'm just going to pawn the scheme of winning the youth league game because of who I have and what I can do, and I'm outsmarting the other coaches based on the rules that are in the game. So now she's tapped out, man. She would have been better suited like learning. So that's what I'm really talking about is learning
Mm.
skills of the game because you don't know, we don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know how big these kids are going to get or tall they're going to get or fast they're going to be. So we need to teach them the fundamentals of the game early and let them get lots of practice at it so that they can be prepared for when they're playing, quote, the real game. And so if I could go ahead, you got a thought, then I'm going to tell a story.
I
All right,
do,
because
because I
I
love
got a
that
shout out
story.
to my buddy that I meant to tell it a couple weeks ago. We did the Think Outside the Box episode, and he was kind of like, anyways, I'll tell the story. It's relevant to this conversation today, and he did a great job with his youth baseball team this season. I want to give him some props, but go ahead.
Okay, so my question there is, and I appreciate that story because that's a great example of a coach actually ruining the potential of a child focused on the skill required to win this game. And in that case, that coach has probably got a sign on the wall that said state championship 1998 or whatever. And in that case, is that the thing the coach only cares about, right? But what we don't hang on the wall is the player that that coach worked with that did something great later because of the skills that they learned with that one coach, right? So the coach that helped the kid, I win 0 games on my middle school team. At some point, somebody's going to find a new coach. Except if I said, "Hey, but look at all these kids and where they are now and what they're doing," it's difficult to convince yourself of as a
Yeah.
coach completely.
Well, as we go back to one of the very first discussions we had was of did you win the game? You know, you see
Mm.
the kid,
Did you win?
you see the
Yeah.
kid at the ice cream shop and he's got his uniform on and neighbor comes up and says, "Hey, did you have a game today?" "Yeah." "Did you win?" Like because we don't want to get into like how did you feel? Did you play well? Did you have fun? Did you learn anything? Those sorts of things that really mean and I've been there myself, man. We can get lost in the and I've told you to share this. I look across the field. I'm like, I'm a better coach than this guy. Why am I losing? Why are
Right.
and I'm losing? Well, I'm not even playing. It's they're playing. But
But we
why are
won't
we
know for years
right?
who the better coach is because we have to see where the kids end up
Yeah.
to find out.
And that's
But
the true
considering this conversation,
calling. That's the true calling of a youth coach, whether you get
yeah,
paid to do it or whether you're volunteer, is the what you do today honestly won't even be realized until 10 to 20 years down the road. Right.
that's a good way to look at it. Okay, so
Um,
tell me your story. Thank you for letting
so
me
so
interrupt.
my buddy's coaching this 9 and 10 year old team, and they're a novice level team, right? And what happens in baseball at 9 and 10 years old is and it even says it on the website, many websites that have their advertising their youth league curriculum or their youth league rules or basically what's played. You had 8 and under is usually coach pitch, and before that's t-ball. But 9 and 10 is when they start playing real baseball. It even says it like we're playing real baseball, and that means that the kids are pitching. That means they're stealing on the bases. Well, the problem with stealing at 9 and 10 year old, especially novice level baseball, is there's not many kids that can play catcher well enough to stop the ball that's pitched. And so
Right.
oftentimes it goes past them, right? And what ends up happening is, and there's a lot of walks. We talked about this a few weeks ago, but there's a lot of walks. So you walk a kid, then he steals second because the catcher's not very good. Then he steals third because the catcher's not very good. Then the ball goes between his legs and rolls the backstop, so the kid runs home. So we have a kid that's walked. Now he's gone all the way around the bases and scored. The other thing that these leagues have is run rules, which I agree with. Run limits, right, per innings. That way, because it's really hard. Rarely do they get 3 outs, so they have to have a run limit in place. So it's either usually 3 runs or 5 runs, and then it trades out to the other team, so we're not standing around too long. So you combine that, and it just becomes like chaotic. You get 3 kids up, and in this league they have 3 run limit. So 3 runs, and you flip it over. So my buddy said, "You know what? We're not doing this whole stealing on pass balls thing, right? We're gonna say our base. I want these kids to learn how to run the bases when there's action on the field, right? And so he did that. He did that. And not only did he find what happened was he shared with me towards the end of the season because he got all the stats and all that just to prove one point. His team had almost twice as many at bats as every other team in the league. Because what would happen is the first kid gets on, right? They go to first base, and they're staying on first base until the kid behind them gets walked and they move to second, or there's a ball put in play and they have to run to second. So they're they're it's taken them longer, in other words, to get to 3 runs than as everybody else who just walks, steals 3 bases, and they're back in the dugout. And not only did they learn how to run the bases during the action, because that's one of the hardest things of baseball for young kids. Okay, there's less than 2 outs. Is a pop fly? Is a kid going to catch it? If he drops it, I have to run to the next base, which often happens. Or I don't think he's going to catch it, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the first base automatically. Or he does catch it, I have to go back. Or it's a ground ball, so I have to run. But is it a force out? Sometimes it's not a force. I don't have to run. There's a lot of scenarios that come easy for us adults because we watch it all on TV. We've played it before, but for a 9-year-old newbie player, it's a tough concept. That's why on our summer camps, I spend a lot of time playing kickball because kickball teaches you all this stuff. And even good baseball players get it wrong. And so, point I'm trying to make is what he did in making that decision not to steal gave his team, they learned how to run the bases, and then they also got more at bats. They got to bat more often, which is what kids want to do. They want to hit and they want to run.
Yeah.
And he created a set circle. He said, forget the rules, forget this is quote real baseball. These are kids. We need to still modify the game. So I just applaud him. He took it upon himself to do this for his team. He got everybody to buy into it. And the kids got to hit a lot. The kids got to run a lot, and they learn skills that scale. Those kids are going to be better hitters than their opponents next season because they got more practice at it. They're going to be better runners than the kids next season because they got more practice at it. And so sometimes, and I said this before about sometimes I'll add a rule in a practice and I think it, made it better for the kids. Like, whoa, that's chaotic. That's not what we need to do. But so sometimes it's not in terms of development, not knowing what to add. We always think, well, what more do we have to do? Sometimes it's actually what to discard. What are we doing that we can sort of take away that's going to make the development much better? And that's what he did.
Yeah, I think that story explains it quite well. And I appreciate that one. That makes me think of some of the things from a tennis perspective that we do where we modify the rules. I think you have a phrase where you say that's a tennis rule, not a Coach Ben rule,
Yeah,
where you have
yeah. So
different
sometimes
types, right?
sometimes they have to know the actual rules of the game, right? If it hits
Right,
the line, it's in. Okay, it's not out. I mean, some sports, if it touches the line, it's out, right? In
right.
basketball, if you touch the ball, touch the line, it's out. When tennis, it touch the line, it's in. So that's a tennis rule, not a Coach Ben rule.
Yeah,
Um,
and I like those because that allows us to make those little tweaks and say, okay, I'm going to change the rule here. You only get one serve, or whatever those things are in certain situations that allow the kids to learn something that they're going to need in the future, to work on something based on a rule set that they're practicing. And I appreciate a coach that's willing to do that in a game setting where
yeah,
he might win less often. That takes a lot of guts as a coach.
yeah. Yeah, for sure, and especially a competitive environment. Parents are going crazy, and it's easy for us to modify stuff in practice because it doesn't really matter, right?
Right.
But when you've got there's real umpires there, there's a scoreboard, there's standings, but there was only one stat he cared about, and that's the reps the kids got. In tennis
And
we
keep
use.
track of those statistics, coaches, because that's the thing you're going to need when the parent comes to you and complains and say, what do you really care about? And that's the statistic. Your child got more at bats than anybody else in the league and
Hmm.
got to run the bases more often. Do we win more games? Is that really what you care about? And you can really kind of stick it to a parent in that case to point out and say, my job isn't to win games. My job is to help your child develop. And we go back to development. So, Ben, wrap it up for me.
Yeah, since we're talking about uh Tennis, I think I'll just finish with this might be a little unpopular, depending on how you feel about Richard Williams, but think about Richard Williams. I'm not saying don't compete, but Richard, he definitely took the road less traveled with his girls in Venus and Serena. And if you've seen the movie, it's some of that's for Hollywood, but a lot of it is true. He pulled them out of junior tournaments, and he said, this is this crazy rat race of junior tournament after tournament and rankings and all this. Like, let's peel back. He pulled the girls out of tournaments for a while and had them just focus on development. And I'm not saying to pull your kid out of youth baseball or youth soccer for a season, but hey, some people, maybe that if it's getting too much, too competitive, too much of a toxic environment, maybe peel back a little bit and say, hey, this is enough. We need to focus on development. But to sum it up today is, you know, what we just said is sometimes you need to discard stuff that's not useful, but focus on the things that are going to help the kid be better at the next level, whatever that level is.
There we go. Thank you, sir. This has been Youth Sports Talk with Coach Ben Hestley. I appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
I remember those skills at scale, parents.
Skills to scale. I love it. Thanks, Ben.